We are heading into the second race in Bahrain and the penultimate round of the 2020 Formula 1 season. It is crazy to think that we've got this far in to a very quirky, remember the 70-year anniversary of Formula 1. Sometimes that does slip your mind a little bit. You know, we've been racing for 70 years. In this weird COVID-filled year when obviously we started in Austria in June, we're now at the penultimate race in December, obviously heading into Sakhir and then Abu Dhabi next week, and the latest finish to a season in Formula 1 history. It's been absolutely crazy, and of course it's been filled with loads of action-packed races and winners and podium sitters in the 2020 season. But we are back again for one of our favourite segments, our favourite videos on the channel, Agree or Disagree. Now before we start, you might see a little bit of a change on your screen right now. Not with my screen, but the box on the other side. Now normally Jordan's there, and you're probably thinking, well, it's a bit more of an improvement on this side. And that's because Jordan is not here today. But I'm not going to be doing this episode alone, and I'm joined by an old friend, an old channel that we've collaborated with before. It is Mike from F1 Fanatics. Mike, thank you very much for being on today again. Very short notice. And yeah, Agree or Disagree. I think it's your second Agree or Disagree that you've done with us, and yeah, it's going to be a good one, isn't it?
It is. I'm excited to be here. Big shoes to fill in Jordan, but I know, obviously, I think one of the gifts his girlfriend got him was a Toro Rosso shirt or jacket. So I thought, you know, just for a bit of familiarity for your fans, that I would dig out my Toro Rosso shirt, you know, just to make sure that it's not too much of a change up seeing someone else beside Lyle rather than Jordan on today's episode.
Well, I'm happier that it's you, Mike, instead of Jordan. I think sometimes he gets, you know, I've had 4 years of him, so. but no,
you need a bit of change in your life. Look at you, you've just dumped him out. Like Jordan's watching this, he's like, I'm so, he's abandoned me.
No, but and also as I said yesterday in the Joe Russell video, it's Lyle Mania on the channel. Obviously, you had me in the news, you had me in the Joe Russell video today, and of course in the race reaction for Sakhir on Sunday. But before we get ahead of ourselves into Sakhir, we're going to start with, of course, today. So Agree or Disagree, if you are new to our channel and now this episode, this series, we take 4 of your guys' opinions that we asked for on our social media. So that's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's on YouTube, and we react to them. Now, again, we have got 4 very good statements that came in throughout the week. Obviously, we just headed out of a very, very strange and a very emotional and a very big Bahrain Grand Prix. Obviously, really bad to really quite strong to digest. We haven't really got any questions to do with them, but yeah, I'd say they were really good. So anyways, without further ado, and any more waffling on from me, Mike, what is our first statement for Agree or Disagree? And yeah, what do we think about that?
Very excited. Look at this, big pressure getting the first question. Well, I have first one here from Motorsport Fanboy, Viandra. This is obviously another YouTube channel. You can check him out as well. This is more of a prediction than an opinion, but I'm just going to say it. Pantera will enter F1 out of nowhere from 2022 and will be Renault's B team for being an engine supplier for them. And it will make Renault have the chance to promote some of their young driver academy they haven't been able to do due to lack of teams. This obviously a very interesting one. I'm going to disagree with this one, Lyle. What are you going to go for on this one?
I'm actually going to agree, Mike. So why do you disagree?
Oh, very interesting. Look at this controversy already.
That's only the best episodes. We need to disagree. They make the best episodes. So yes, I mean, I hope we do this all the time. So yeah, sorry, why do you disagree with obviously Pantera coming into F1?
I disagree because I really don't think, right, so when Ross Brawn was talking about new teams, obviously it was a big one implemented when the rules and regulations were coming out for originally 2021. We know now that in 2022, that's when the new rules are going to be coming in, which hopefully is for a lot of people pinning a lot of hopes on, that will improve the overall quality of the racing and closeness of the field in Formula 1. But he said the main focus of Formula 1 is to have 10 really strong teams before we start considering anybody else to come in. And, that was for 2021. With everything pushed back and with COVID and everything, even more so, that strengthens my view that we're not going to be seeing another team here. not for a while at least. They're going to focus of bringing up the HAASes and the Williams and making them more competitive. Hopefully, everyone gets a solid base, and we've got 10 really strong teams in F1, 20 seats available through great options. I do think that Renault do need a B team. They definitely need, they lose out to people like Mercedes, like Ferrari, like Red Bull, who are able to bring their juniors up and ease them into Formula One, rather than Renault have to put them just right into the spotlight in the main team, which puts a lot of pressure on them. Guys like Jolene Palmer have fallen to this in the past. But yeah, that's why I disagree. I just don't think the sport are going to allow it.
Wow, well, obviously some big views on that. So firstly, from my view, is new team in F1. Definitely we need that. Again, with only 10 teams and obviously some possibly even leaving in the few years, obviously with the just how expensive Formula 1 is right now, and obviously again it changed in 2022, making F1 seem not as appealing as it was a few years ago. The cars are going to change, chassis is going to become out more electrical. Of course, the cars will become slower, and again it will be more financially, they will have to put more money in financially, and only as I say, for 20 seats, 10 teams, it's really so much that they have to give in for not really much in, kind of you're getting back, because we know that Mercedes are going to be running away with it. So if you're going to put all this money in for second place, it's really not that worth it. So Formula 1 isn't as appealing anymore. So to hear that a team wants to get into Formula 1, I mean, take your minds back a few years ago when HAAS wanted to enter Formula 1, they were really pushing, and we were kind of amazed that a team was really behind, wanted to get into the sport. Panthera are definitely interested in getting in. Of course, they're an Asian team. They bring a lot of money back in from the Far East. I think it's Singapore. In terms of the Renault side, I definitely agree with that. Christian Lundgaard and Wang Yuzhou, two drivers from Formula 2, who I don't want to say definitely deserve Formula 1 seats, but they should be given a chance. And that's definitely regular FP1 sessions. That's a good chance, a good selection in a team. Obviously, with 11 teams and 22 seats, of course, there would be 2 more seats available. It would give those drivers a lot more of a chance. And also for the Renault Junior program, as I've just mentioned there, with those 2 drivers, it would give them more opportunity to move those drivers up into F1 in the future. Because, I mean, especially at the start of the season, people like Christian Lundgaard really running away with it. They looked so strong, and he looked like he was going to get into F1. It just hasn't really worked out. Obviously, of course, the scarcity of the seats in F1 hasn't worked out. It's also as well Callum Ilott. He was with the Renault program, but now it looks like obviously he's going to be joining. Well, it did look like he was going to be joining the Ferrari-based team in HAAS, but of course now we know with Schumacher and Mazepin signed, that isn't going to happen. Even though he does have an FP1 session in Abu Dhabi, the final round. Can't remember if that's either Alfa Romeo or HAAS, but obviously 2 Ferrari-linked teams. So obviously going down that route instead of Renault, which he did ditch actually, because last year he was part of the Renault program, and then obviously he moved to Ferrari. It would allow more drivers to come into F1, definitely. And it would allow the Renault drivers to move up. Obviously people like Christian Lundgaard definitely have a future in F1. And obviously for the Far East as well, I mean, you look at all the races that we're going to around there. I mean, obviously Japan, Suzuka, very, great traditional circuit. Shanghai as well, again, after the COVID crisis, I think they definitely need, more back in there, a stronger race in 2021. Singapore as well, and even again, like the races down in Australia and stuff, to have a team from the Far East and kind of representing that area of the world is definitely important. So, and obviously, as I said, they're definitely budding to get into Formula 1. So, I'm definitely a big fan of them coming in, making 11 teams, and obviously 2 more seats on the Formula 1 grid. And obviously, if that was the case, definitely promote people like Christian Lundgaard, Wang Yuzhou, and see who else will be in the program. I mean, there was loads of other people, in the spotlight beforehand. Obviously, the late Antoine Hubert, he was also in the Renault Junior program. So, definitely seats and progression from them in the future. It would also help Renault in terms of, again, what they're going to do for next year. Because, yes, they are bringing back Fernando Alonso, but how long is he going to stay there? Is he just a stocking filler? Is he just a seat filler? Or is he going to be there for the long run? Also, Esteban Ocon as well. Is he really the future of Renault? Or are they just, hanging on to anyone that they can get? So it's all really up in the air, especially for Renault. And again, we've had junior program questions before. So I do think that this is a very important one. I'm going to say agree. It'd be great to see a team in, obviously. It'd be great to see, Renault getting more backing. possibly getting more drivers through in the Renault program. Again, things like obviously the Renault supplier, obviously the losing McLaren next year, which will be a big hit for them. Also, just as they back the team, and as I've just said there about Fernando Alonso, what's he going to do? Once they lose Alonso, it's like, who else have they got left? Again, Christian Lundgaard and Zhang Yuzhou in Formula 2, but how long are they going to be there? And of course, if they do win the championship next year, and Alonso doesn't leave, or it's a bit of a battle between who's going to get the seat, remember they can't hang around in F2 if you win the championship, and they'll go somewhere else and they'll miss out on the team at Renault. So I definitely think it's important. And obviously in that situation, Lundgaard or Joe would then go to Panthera, and then obviously wait their turn and then go to to Renault. Of course, very much like Ferrari are doing with Mick Schumacher, you could say. Of course, going to HAAS, the second of the three Ferrari teams. Of course, before he then possibly goes to Ferrari in their A team, of course, in Formula 1. Anyways, moving on to the second statement, and this comes in from okay. So firstly, give you a bit of a back and story. As you all know, a lot of the F1 channels on YouTube and Twitter and things like that had to change their name because of a scare from the FOM about copyright and things like that. We've all had to change our names. I'm not even sure, Mike, what's your channel called now? Is it Fanatics or what's your channel called?
I think we're going against the mold. We are waiting for FOM to come after us, and we will stay F1 Fanatics until we are told otherwise. I know, obviously, it was Nick Cranky Yankee, but it'd be interesting. I can't plausibly think that they'll come after all of us, because that would be incredibly stupid from them. But who knows what F1 do. If the day arises, then probably go from there, but we're going to stick with F1 Fanatics for the time being. But yeah, I understand the scare and why people wanted to change their names.
That's good. I mean, yes, stick with what you have, mate. And obviously you're a big channel as well, obviously, so I can imagine FOM definitely going after you guys. Anyways, so as I say, a lot of people change their names. And this guy's changed his name to something very, very good on Twitter. It was Kronos F1 originally, Jack Milton, a guy from our neck of the woods, who we've worked with before, really nice guy. And his name is Hippity Hoppity. This is FOM's property. That is amazing. I mean, that's incredible. That really is good. So he's still got the normal KF1 logo though, so you might have to change that to a HHTIFOMP. But we'll have to see what you do. So anyway, to actually his statement that came through.
Oh, Jack.
It's about Mercedes. And he says Mercedes' dominance will continue through the next set of regulations and will only end once a whole new set are bought, i.e. it won't end in 2021 or whenever it is, and it will only end with the next one after that, or whenever that it may be. So basically, Mercedes will just keep dominating until the next, not this rule change, the next rule change, and it might not even be from then. So Mercedes, when are they going to be stopped? Can't stop, won't stop. We've heard that before. And to that, I'm going to say, I mean, obviously I wouldn't like that to be, true, because obviously I want other teams like Red Bull to come through again. But I'm going to agree to that, Mike. I mean, what do you think about that?
I'm going to disagree. Just to keep it going, but I more probably out of fan hope optimism that the sport cannot continue with Mercedes continuing to win everything, especially in the fashion that they are. So that's why I'm going to disagree.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I would love to do a fan thing, but I'm going to do from a Formula 1 standpoint first. 2013 rolls by. The end of 2013, start of 2014 rolls by. V8 go, V6 has come in, and probably one of the biggest changes in Formula 1 history happened in that transition between 13 and 14. The cars became, basically they went from these massive, petrol heavy trucks to hybrid, sensible, economic 21st century battery cars. You've got to think about the actual change that went down then. It was really, really big. Mercedes-Benz poured so much money into the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula 1 team, not really knowing if it would succeed, and obviously it did. It took off so much, but they put in so much work, so much money, so much investment into the team. It did pay off. And obviously, I mean, they had Lewis Hamilton on board, of course, which definitely helped. Mercedes have been dominating so well. It just seems everything they do, they get right. That's from everyone they have on board. That's from people like Andy Shevlin. That's from people like Bono. That's from people like Toto Wolff, of course. Even the late Niki Lauda, of course, his help in the team. And, of course, the two drivers. Even when Nico Rosberg was there. And even when Michael Schumacher was there. It just seems like everything Mercedes do, it is right. It's in the right direction. They're really good at adapting to different game plans. Again, that's why they're different to Ferrari, when they can really work around the situation. In Bahrain, you might have seen, it was shared by a lot of the YouTubers, where Mercedes actually pitted Lewis Hamilton and changed one tyre out of the 4. Apparently that, you think it's not allowed in the rule book, but they have managed to exploit that and get away with it. So it's like things like that, they're able to get their head around and be very, very sneaky and sensible and just kind of, mind equals blown kind of thing. And because of that, I don't think Mercedes are going to be stopped. They're always ahead of us. I mean, probably since the British Grand Prix, they were working on 2021's car, then 2022's car, and then beyond and beyond that. They're always one step ahead of us. They're always efficient as well. And again, it isn't just Formula One. They're also working in other things. I mean, again, if you remember, back when the COVID pandemic was, when we were in our first lockdown here in the UK around June, July time. Oh no, that's actually when we were ending it. But still, they were working on ergonomic things for hospitals, and they were trying to innovate not just Formula One, but other aspects of not even motorsport, not even travel, but the world. It just seems like Mercedes have, they've really got the head screwed on right when it comes to innovation and how much they put into the car. To a point where I don't feel like this is a Red Bull, 2010 to 2013 domination. Red Bull obviously got the rules right. They had Adrian Newey at the helm, obviously, but Red Bull got the rules right. Nobody can deny that. Red Bull definitely got the rules right. And then, of course, after 2014, they basically fell apart. With two good drivers at the helm, they had world champion Sebastian Vettel at the helm, so it's not like, they just gave in because they didn't have a good driver. They just couldn't compete. Mercedes, I'd say they've gone beyond that. They've really got Formula One cracked. They've really got these cars cracked, and I feel like they're always going to be ahead of us in some way, shape or form come this rule change, and then I think it's 2027's rule change, and just so on and so forth from then. Obviously, 2021, no change, very, very little change, even though the cars are going to get slower. 2022, of course, the big regulation change that a lot of the teams are working towards now. But yeah, I mean, I agree with hippity hoppity there. I don't feel like Mercedes are going to be stopped. And again, like we've said many times, Mercedes are going to be number one, and it's going to be the fight for the midfield. So, Mike, obviously, your views on Mercedes, they can be stopped. Just before I pass over to you, obviously, I completely agree with you there in terms of a fan perspective. I would love that. And I don't really want to see a team dominate because, I mean, that's no fun. And we want to see a 7-way battle, 7 different winners in 7 different races like we saw in 2012, of course, my favourite year in Formula One. That's what we want to see, but the Mercedes dominance, yes, of course I'd like to see it end, even though it has been good to see. But in terms of an actual Formula One standpoint, I feel like they're definitely one step ahead of us, one big step ahead of us, and they'll keep dominating until the team just naturally catches up to them. I don't feel like any set of rule changes will knock Mercedes off the ledge, or especially like they did with Red Bull Racing. I mean, obviously, I know Mercedes caught up to Red Bull, but in a way, of course, the rules knocked Red Bull back, obviously, from the V8s, that obviously in 2010 and 2013 when they won 4 back-to-back. So, Mike, you disagree with that? Again, from fan perspective, that's good thinking, but what about Formula One's perspective? Do you think that the rule changes are going to knock Mercedes off, or do you think that a team will just catch up to them naturally? What's your view on this statement?
I think you've made a very good case, Lal. I think there are a lot of things, and I think undoubtedly this Mercedes team are the best team of how they've operated in this period in F1 history. From like I said, a fan perspective, I hope the dominant ends, but also from a Formula One perspective, there are signs to say that it will end, or at least they won't be as dominant as what they've been. Yes, they will still be competitive, but I'm going to hope that the FIA majorly enforce this budget cap, and I think by naturally, it may not happen in the first year in 2022, but definitely in the years 23, 24, you're going to see the fields coming a lot closer and closer. I think we already look at the Formula One grid as the moment, and I'd say McLaren, Racing Point and Renault all probably have very similar budgets on the grid, and look how that close they've been this season in the midfield. Yes, Lewis Hamilton has been superb, but Lewis Hamilton's not going to be here forever. And either is Toto Wolff, probably, if you believe the way that he talks. I don't think he's in it for the long term. Yeah. But periods of dominance in Formula One have always ended. And, they always, when they're happening, they always feel like they're not going to end. I do agree. I don't think it's the same 2010, 2013, or maybe it is, because this is going to be the first real major rule change since, the introduction of the hybrid engines for the 2014 season. So yeah, obviously Red Bull 2010 to 2013 ended, although that kind of really started in 2009. They could have even capitalized on that aspect if certain things have gone their way, or they just got on with it and put a double diffuser on the car sooner. Ferrari, their era of dominance came to end. I don't think many people saw that coming. Williams through the 90s was such a dominant force, and you now look at them now. And then obviously McLaren through the 80s as well, a very dominant force within the sport. They're still thereabouts, and they remained there or thereabouts, and that's where Mercedes will be, because they are a good team. But with the budget cap coming in, with the change in rules and regulations, they will be very well placed to continue to dominate. But I do think that it will come to an end, and it may not be 2022, but definitely 2023, 2024, 25 in there. I can't see Mercedes dominating, say, for the next decade, or when the next major rule changes come in terms of how they review what they're going to do with the engine in the next batch. I just very much view it as they'll be competitive. They may still win championships, but they won't dominate how they've been, and it may allow teams like Red Bull to come into play. I think the McLarens, Renaults and Aston Martins are the ones to really watch out for in the next rules and regulations. So yeah, it looks doom and gloom at the moment, especially with how dominant they've been in this season. But let's be fair, this season was essentially a very much a stopgap season. With COVID, you're going to have 2 stopgap seasons, which make Mercedes dominance seem even worse. But everyone's thoughts and everyone's ideas were going to the 2021's rules and regulation changes, and they'd kind of almost gone, Mercedes have this one, you've dominated this period, it's all about nailing the next set, and are very much doing what Mercedes did in 2010 to 2013. They weren't focused on those rules and regulation changes, they were focused on getting the hybrid engine right, because they identified that was going to be the key one, and that has been it. They've had the best engine throughout the entirety of this period, or the best legal engine, we should say, with Ferrari last year. That I think a lot of teams have a lot of smart people, and it's going to be a hell of a lot closer, and I can't see Mercedes continuing this domination into the rules and regulations. Or at least as a fan, I desperately hope so.
Yes, we all do as fans. Yeah, definitely.
Right, so I guess that's on to me with our third opinion of the day. And this comes from the Lost Third Round of Surf. Interesting name there. Red Bull will have to settle with having Renault engines after they can't agree on finding a new supplier. If not, they'll be out of F1. Very interesting one, and very big call here on this. I'm going to disagree with it again. I've disagreed with everyone so far. I'm just telling everyone your opinions are rubbish. Get out.
And me, you've disagreed with me, but I like that. I don't like the word settle because obviously I'm a Red Bull fan, but no, I very much agree. So yeah, I'm agreeing to that.
How brilliant's this? There we go. 3 out of 3. Agree or disagree? Look, you'll be having me back on every week.
You can take Jordan's spot. I know.
That Jordan's been sacked off. Poor Jordan. He's sitting at home watching this. He's like going, "Oh, what's happened to me? I've been kicked off my own channel."
He can start as a. He can start new. Right. He can start disagree or agree. That's his new series.
Exactly, mate. Right, disagree. Why I disagree with? Well, look, the way that Red Bull have been talking again is they're very much saying we're going to buy the IP off Honda and look to go it our own way. So the key part of that segment is, if not, they'll be out of F1. They may very well end up with Renault. They could do, if it appears that having their own engine program and getting the people involved in that is too expensive / isn't an effective way. But with the engine freeze coming in, what is it? 2023 potentially the engine freeze coming in, which is development. So if Honda just keep pushing, which is developed well going into the 2022 season, and then they just have to make sure that they pump a load of money, or as much money as they can do with the budget cap, into the engine development during the 2022 season. 2023 with the engine freeze, from my understanding, stops development to kind of bring down costs, so it should level out and plateau the field. Renault seems the last option for them, and I do honestly think that they're going to get it was a bit like McLaren. Was it McLaren had with Honda? When Honda pulled out, they had I've forgotten the name, begins with M, Magero, something like that. But you know, I can very much see Red Bull doing that situation. They've had a really good relationship with Honda. They have improved, they have developed over these seasons with it. They're obviously massively disappointed that Honda have pulled out, but I can't see them putting out. They've committed long term, and they've committed to the Concord Agreement, and I don't know how easy it is to pull out of that Concord Agreement, but that at least ties them into the sport till 2025 legally. I think I imagine they would have to give some sort of financial cost to buy out, but I'm not sure on that front on how the contract works entirely. But yeah, that means that they need an engine. Will it be Renault? Maybe, but that's certainly not their first choice, and I think their first choice is a plausible option for them. It has been done in Formula One before, and I think Red Bull will certainly be working hard over this coming year to make sure they put everything into place to carry on that engine program going forward. So that's why I would disagree. Key one there was if not, they'll be out of F1. I definitely don't think it's Renault or bust.
No, I agree. I agree. It's not. I don't think Red Bull are going to leave. Again, actually, like Mercedes, just when I was saying there on the previous statement, like Mercedes, the good thing about Red Bull was, from the get-go, because I mean, remember, within 5 years of their inception, when they took over from Jaguar, they had won the World Championship. They had many wins. Mark Webber, Sebastian Vettel, they were incredible, and the reason why is obviously because of the money pumped in. So yeah, obviously to the second thing, I don't really agree to that. But, and again, the settle, I don't really like that word, but I do think it's going to be Renault for sure. Basically, just the availability on the grid. Now, have you ever had a thought of Formula One where, it's your state, nobody else agrees with you, or, it kind of flew under the radar or something, but you hold on to this, you're like, this could have happened. And like, for example, Michael Schumacher, if he didn't get that grid penalty, if he didn't get that grid penalty after Spain, he would have remained on pole for Monaco. He would have won the Monaco Grand Prix, and he wouldn't have retired. Things like that.
Yeah.
Well, with I mean, maybe some people think that, I don't know. With me, it's in 2017 when Red Bull were at strains with Renault. If you remember that year, they also became Red Bull Racing Tag Heuer. The name Renault actually wasn't even on the car because, again, with the strange relationship after 2016, they weren't really a fan of putting Renault on the car. In that year, we had loads of promises that Adrian Newey, again, the person who was responsible for getting them the 4 World Championships, constructor and driver-wise, and obviously creating incredible Red Bull cars in the V8 era, was going to work with Aston Martin, who, of course, came on board as a sponsor at that point. Sorry, this 2018 when they came on board as a sponsor, they were going to work behind the scenes, again with the Aston Martin Racing Company, of course, to create an Aston Martin engine. And then when we saw Aston Martin Red Bull Racing, we weren't just seeing that as a sponsor, we were going to see that as a real engine. And then again, when we heard the news that Honda was going to pull out, we heard news that again because of Red Bull buying in the process of renting or buying out their factory in Europe, I think it's in Austria, that they were going to basically become a team where they were going to build their own engines. I don't think that's going to happen now. A few years ago, I did for sure. When they were with Aston Martin, of course I did. But of course now Aston Martin are leaving. They're leaving Red Bull as a sponsor because they're going to join up with Racing Point, and of course become the main sponsor of the headline name, of course, of Racing Point becoming, of course, Aston Martin Racing. I don't think Red Bull have got the option to make their own engine anymore. I do actually believe that a few years ago they definitely did have the option. I do think that Aston Martin could have come into Formula One as an engine supplier and supplied Red Bull, and this would have been, of course, it would have been a tricky venture. It would have been different, and of course, swaying away from the Renault program, of course, which they won, as I just mentioned there, 4 and 4. It would have been different, but I do think that was an option. It's not an option now, but because of obviously what they're doing with the Honda garage, the Honda factory in Europe, it does beg the question, what are they doing behind the scenes? Of course, they're not using Honda engines, but are they going to be using some parts and basically developing their own engine? Because obviously, they have got, of course, very savvy people on board. They probably don't have the prestige like McLaren and Ferrari do in terms of, back at the factories. But Red Bull definitely have, they definitely have I'd say the nous after being in Formula 1 for over 10 years to, possibly build an engine. But I don't believe that they're going to be doing that. Obviously, and then you look at the engines that are in now. Mercedes, no chance. Ferrari, no chance. And the only two reasons why we're not going with Ferrari or Mercedes is because if Red Bull want to stay as a top team, they can't go to Ferrari and they can't go to Mercedes. I mean, yes, of course, the fourth place guys, the guys chipping away, is of course Racing Point, who use Mercedes engines. You've also got McLaren, but they're using Renault, so they can actually be in that four-way fight if they want. And actually, that's a benefit of having Renault because obviously it's not a top-tier engine. But if Red Bull use a Ferrari or Mercedes, they technically will become a B team to that respective engine. So if they use a Ferrari engine, they'll become a B team to Ferrari. And if they use a Mercedes engine, they'll become a B team to Mercedes. They won't be a top-running team anymore. The benefit of having Renault in, even through things like 2015, 16, 17, 18, was obviously the fact that, it didn't matter how bad Red Bull were doing. Of course, obviously, it had to beat Renault to keep this up. But as long as they were beating Renault, it didn't matter how good or bad they were doing in the table. They became the A-list team or the main team for, of course, the Renault power unit. And they would get things like, the Renault drivers on board. So that's why Renault is probably the best and the only option, of course, for Red Bull in the future. Going to Mercedes and Ferrari are options, but they don't want to do that because if they do that, they will become a B team. Trust me, they definitely will do because they'll be using that. Just like we look at Ferrari and at HAAS, as I just mentioned there with Mick Schumacher, it's a B team to Ferrari because they use Ferrari engines. If Red Bull go to Mercedes or Ferrari, they'll become a B team, which of course they definitely don't want. They've got Max Verstappen on board, of course, a man who he doesn't want to be a B driver. He doesn't want to be at a B team. So Renault looks to be the only option. As I said, as I agree with Mike there, I don't agree with the last statement about the leave Formula One. I believe that a lot of things will fall apart if they don't get engines sorted. For example, as I just said there, Max might leave if they do become a B team. And they might lose funding, and basically Red Bull might just not be something that they want to invest in anymore. A bit like when Sir Richard Branson came in and created Virgin Racing, it became something where the idea was good, but because the team was doing terrible, less and less money was pumped in, and then obviously after one season or 2 seasons, the team went bust. Because obviously there's no point investing in something if it doesn't work. So things like that, they might fall apart in certain ways, but I don't think they'll ever pull out. And also just one last thing as well, I don't actually think that the Renault relationship was too bad. As I said there, they won 4 and 4. Yes, 15 wasn't a great season. 2016 was decent. Of course, you got both Max and Daniel to a winning position. And then the years after that, it wasn't too bad. So I wouldn't have actually said that the Renault power unit isn't too bad to be using. And of course, Renault, the works team, is showing that it's doing quite well. So yeah, I agree with that statement. I don't agree with the second part about them pulling out. But I do think that Renault is the option, the best, but unfortunately the only option for Red Bull. Anyways, moving into the final statement of today's episode, and of course the title of today's episode, Nakita Mazepin has just been signed by HAAS alongside Mick Schumacher. He was signed first, so, you know, I don't know if it was just me, but I feel like that said a statement. You know, they believed in Mazepin more. Anyways, but nevertheless, they signed him more. Doesn't matter if you want to read anything into that or not. They did. So obviously, Kirill, a regular commenter on Agree or Disagree, has come out with a statement again about said driver coming into HAAS F1 team, and he says that Mazepin isn't that bad of a driver. The only issue is his questionable behaviour on and off track. Now, because Nakita Mazepin started quite late, I think it was 2014, he's kind of hop, skip and jump a few categories and things like that, and he has been known for some dirtier moves than some of like the traditional Formula 2 drivers have done in the past. But obviously he's earned his way to Formula 1, as I say, signed before Mick, so to that I'm going to say disagree.
Oh, and here we go. To make it a clean sweep between me and you, but also to change it up, I'm gonna agree with this.
Oh, you're just saying that because of me. I mean, you just want to change.
No. I'll agree. You'll get round to me, mate. But first of all, why do you disagree?
Yes. Well, I disagree, and I'm glad you agree. I'm excited to see what you say. So yes, obviously I disagree because Nakita Mazepin, good driver. As I said there, he started in Formula 3 in 2014 from his single-seater careers, and then obviously moved into Formula 2, and obviously then promoted up to Formula 1 with HAAS. I do think that he's a strong driver from his results in Formula 2. You know, I think he's won a few races, he's got a few podiums here and there. We had a few questions, or we had a few statements about paid drivers and things like that, and of course Nakita brings back the conversation of paid drivers. See, his dad is a billionaire back in Russia, so again it comes back into the fact of, are we looking at like a Lance Stroll, are we looking at a Nicholas Latifi, are we looking at a Sean Gelael, someone who's basically just not paid the way into the sport, but used that money to just accelerate them and kind of, you know, get to the position because of the money and the wealth and the kind of the influence that either they or the parents have in the sport. I wouldn't really say that he has that. I do think he's a good driver, and I definitely think that he's earned his position in HAAS. He has been known for some of the some dirtier moves on track and things like that. Obviously, as I say, compared to some of the other drivers like Mick Schumacher, Robert Schwartzman, Callum Ilott, and even some of the older drivers such as Louis Delatraz, Luke Ghiotto, not Luke Ghiotto, what you call him, Sean Gelael, I was going to say, who again I've just mentioned there as a paid driver. So, but I think he's quite good. But definitely Delatraz, one of my favourite F2 drivers, and someone who I'm still annoyed that Haas looked over him both for the race in Sakhir, obviously to replace Romain Grosjean, but also for next year. I definitely thought that he would obviously take Romain's seat and not Fittipaldi for the Sakhir Grand Prix, but nevertheless, I'm still with you, Louis. I still like you you're my F2 guy. So yeah, no, there's not much to say on this, Mike. I don't think. I like Mazepin. He's a good driver. I don't really fully digest this question in terms of his questionable behaviour on and off track. I think he's a good driver, and I think that he's earned his way into Formula 1. Again, obviously, this season that we're heading into, it's important for Haas to obviously get the feet off the ground, but with two Formula 2 drivers and two Formula 2 rivals, it is going to be quite tricky to manage, both because they are rookies and they are in their first year of Formula 1, but also because even though they're finding the feet into F1, Haas really can't afford to be like that. You know, they need to get off the starting blocks really fast because of the bad car that they've had, because of the few years of kicking the heels, and because of, again, as I said at the start there, about the scare of Haas possibly even leaving Formula 1. But I like Mazepin, and as I say, that is why I disagree to that. So, Mike, you agree? I feel like you've just done that on purpose. But no, please tell us why you agree with this statement about Nakita Mazepin.
Well, look, for me, I think Nakita is very harshly treated. And look, the issue, I think, what Kirill said there is on and off track there. Yeah, on track, look, he clearly is a driver with talent and ability, and I'll come on to that. And hey, through the junior formula, they're going to make mistakes because they are learning to be race drivers. And yes, some of the moves are going to be questionable, but heck, you learn from your mistakes, you develop and you improve. on that aspect. Off track, yeah, you can definitely go about it, but he probably has a similar personality to Max Verstappen, who's not probably lauding himself with fans at the moment with some of the stuff that he says in the media. You know, look, do Formula One stars have to be angels to be given a Formula One seat? I don't think so. Look, they just probably need better management and better PR to kind of do that stuff. But it's difficult. He's a young man, and you're in the public eye. It's very easy, I think, from an outside perspective, to be judging what people do and say. Can he definitely, you know, be sat down and probably spoken about some of his thoughts and some of the things he's posted? Yeah, absolutely. You know, he definitely can learn and improve in that, but he's a young man. Should that be an excuse? No, but can he learn and be a better person in the future? Yeah, that's not going to be something that I hinder him from there. On his racing ability, he has been a driver that has supremely impressed me in F2 this season, especially going with high tech. ART last year, I was kind of a bit like, well, obviously Nick De Vries went on to win the championship and Nakita Mazepin was kind of nowhere as his teammate. And you're going, oh, hang on a minute, how was Nakita Mazepin? He must have only stayed in F2 because of the money that he brings, with obviously high tech being their first season competing in Formula 2. But he's outshone the more experienced Luca Giotto in this season, and you know, he's within the top 5 within this season. I think actually is he third? I think currently in the F2 standings. I'm not sure after last weekend's race.
I don't think he's third, but I think fourth. Mate. I think
fourth makes sense because I think Schwartzman went up to third, didn't he? Yeah. No, it makes sense on that basis. So, you know, he goes on that basis, and a lot of the people are like Callum Ilott deserves an F1 seat. Look, Callum Ilott, fantastic qualifier. Absolutely. His pole positions have been brilliant in this season. But from the position he's in, and he could still go on and win the F2 championship this weekend. And it'll be an impressive season for Callum Ilott for sure. But he's in a better team, or at least a better suited team to Formula 2 to challenge for that title. And Nakita Mazepin in a brand new team to Formula 2. Yes, they've tested and they're good in the other junior categories in high-tech GP. But, you know, still, it's to come into the series in your first full year competing and to have a driver currently standing in the top 4. And he's had some superb performances on track. Is he the driver that HAAS need? On track ability? No. Going for 2 Rickies is an incredibly risky strategy with both him and Mick Schumacher. But HAAS are going for a more long-term approach here. And at the end of the day, you look at someone like Callum Ilott and Nakita Mazepin, who actually I think are probably on a pretty similar level, at least what they've shown in Formula 2 this year, I would say, respective of their teams and levels of ability. I would say Callum's definitely the better qualifier, but in the race, Nakita Mazepin definitely finds a way of performing well.
Yeah.
You've then got Nakita Mazepin, who, like you said, has a billionaire dad and, you know, comes into the sport. And is that then the platform that allows HAAS to become, like we said earlier, one of the opinions, a strong and established team within the sport of Formula 1, develop, improve, and become a team that goes back to more 2018 HAAS, where they were competing at the kind of sharper end of the grid for kind of better points, rather than obviously this sad state that they're in with 2 talented drivers in Kevin Magnussen and Roman Grosjean, but they're planning for the future. And I think a pretty impressive signing. And yeah, I do think Nakita Mazepin is harshly rated for the ability that he has shown.
Yeah, it's sometimes drivers can. Sometimes when their reputation gets ahead of their driving standards, that's when it's a little bit like Lance Stroll, I guess. And again, that's why I said at the start about like Latifi and Stroll. You know, they're paid drivers. It's no surprise, it's no kind of secret that their dads have invested into their careers, and that's how Stroll had such a bad reputation at the start. Or I would say across the board, it was fairly negative. People were like, it's a paid driver. He's got a silver spoon in his mouth, things like that. But then, of course, this year he's completely turned that on his head. I feel like Mazepin will have this reputation, and to be honest, he could actually take over from Stroll in terms of this bad reputation until he hopefully does something decent. Now, again, I know HAAS, in terms of 2021, HAAS aren't really going to change. They're not going to be that good. But hopefully he can. Obviously, again, hopefully HAAS can make good. Just having those two Formula 2 drivers this year, Mazepin and Schumacher, a great change for them. Also, speaking of Russia, Kirill, if you're watching this, your name is still Russian. I remember you changed it for the Russian Grand Prix, and you haven't changed it back, so, what's happening there? Are you going to change it back, or are you going to keep Russian symbols? I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks good, but it's Russian all the way. Anyways, that is the end of our Agree or Disagree episode. Thank you so much for watching, guys out there. Make sure to leave in the comment section below your what do you agree or disagree to all 4 statements, and of course, please tell us why. But me and Mike certainly don't agree, because I think it's been that's 4 of 4 we haven't agreed on. I mean, but it's been a good episode, hasn't it? So obviously, Mike, once again, thank you very much for being on our show today. 4 for 4 where we didn't agree. I mean, what do you make of that?
Oh, mate, unbelievable. It meant that it was good debate on the show, on the Formula Debate show. Why wouldn't you want to have good debates on this channel? Mate, thank you so much for having me on. It was nice to kind of step in for Jordan. Obviously, I'm sure he'll be back next week, back with his opinions on Agree or Disagree. But as always, it's always fun to kind of discuss topics or theories and give different opinions on things, and hopefully people have enjoyed watching it.
Hopefully. And do you know what you are, Mike? You're Nico Hülkenberg. Jordan was busy and I needed someone last minute. Who do you call in 2020? Nico Hülkenberg. And what do you do when Nico Hülkenberg doesn't pick up? You call Mike. That's you're Nico Hülkenberg 2.0, so that's
Mike Hülkenberg.
Nico Hülkenberg. Oh, best line out of Drive to Survive Series 2 for sure. Anyway, guys, again, that's it. So thank you very much for watching. We will leave links to Mike's channel down below. Please go and check them out. Again, very great channel. We've worked with them a lot. Similar to us, just sit down and talk Formula 1. So yeah, go and check them out as well, and obviously make sure that you stay with us throughout 2020, the remaining 2 races, the off-season and 2021. If this is the first time that you're checking us out, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified every time we upload. We made a goal of 3,000 subscribers before the end of the season, so please help us out. Help us get there to 3K. We're very, very close. You can be the one that makes the difference. Do it. It's completely free, and yeah, you will not regret it. The first time I ever said that, you will not regret. You might regret it. I don't know. You haven't seen the other guy yet. You've seen Mike. You've seen me, but you haven't seen the other guy, so you might regret it in the future. I don't know. Anyways, guys, and obviously we're also on SoundCloud as well with our podcast series. We also have a very special podcast coming out in the off season just before Christmas time. We're trying to enable the 12 days of Christmas. 12 podcasts of Christmas. We'll have to let you know how that progress is going on. And actually, funny enough, we do have Mike from F1 Fanatics, coming out throughout that Christmas podcast season. So again, make sure you stay with us to obviously catch Mike's and everyone else's podcast up until the lead of Christmas. Anyway, guys, until next time, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the Sakhir Grand Prix on Sunday, and until next time, we'll see you later.